So we've all met that person who seems to believe the world revolves around them. They dominate conversations, they insist on their own way, and they often fail to see how their actions affect those around them. This mindset, known as main character syndrome, can be destructive, not just for those around them, but for the individuals as well. Today we're going to be looking at how this syndrome can impact every aspect of your life and what can be done to overcome it. Main character syndrome isn't just about being self-centered. It's often a defense mechanism rooted in insecurity. People with this mindset, they tend to see themselves as the hero in their own story. They expect everything and everyone to cater to their narrative. But life is not a movie, and in the real world, this attitude can lead to isolation, resentment, and failure. Whether in personal relationships or at work, main character syndrome creates a toxic environment where collaboration, empathy, and growth are stifled. In a personal context, it can push loved ones away, leading to loneliness and strained relationships. In the workplace as well, and as we will see with one of my clients that we would call Edith, it can as well derail a career. Edith was referred to me by her HR department due to disruptive behavior, declining team performance, and strained workplace relationships. When we first met, Edith's commanding presence was immediately apparent. She exuded confidence, but beneath that exterior there was tension, a clue to deeper issues. Edith had just resumed a role as a manager in this firm just 6 months earlier, and she quickly established herself as a confident and assertive leader. However, our team members and supervisors soon noticed that Edith had a tendency to dominate meetings, consistently steering conversation back to her own ideas and disregarding input from others. She was heavily involved in every aspect of our team's project, often staying late to perfect presentations and frequently redoing her team's work to align with her vision. During a project brainstorming session, Edith pitched an idea that was met with skepticism from her teammates. Instead of considering their feedback and working collaboratively to refine the concept, Edith became defensive and dismissive, insisting that our idea was the best solution and that our team members simply just didn't understand our vision. As the project progressed, Edith continued to prioritize her own ideas over those of her teammates, dismissing their concerns and refusing to compromise. This led to tension within the team, and there were delays in the project's timeline, and ultimately there was a significant oversight in the marketing strategy, which resulted in a failed project launch and substantial financial losses for the company. In the aftermath, Edith's team members were demoralized and resentful, while the company's reputation suffered due to a high-profile failure. Our relationships at work deteriorated rapidly. Edith dismissed their concerns, attributing their behavior to jealousy or lack of ambition. This culminated in a confrontation during a team building retreat, where her team accused her of being a tyrant who crushed their creativity. The team was fractured, deadlines were missed, and the company's reputation was at risk. This was what prompted our human resource department to recommend her for coaching. During one of our first few sessions, Edith was defensive. She still doubted the necessity of coaching, dismissing others' reactions as mere envy. She was convinced that the problem stemmed from her team's lack of vision and creativity and not a leadership or personality style. She described how she would often stay late redoing her team's work to make it perfect, and how she believed that she was simply the only one willing to put in the extra necessary effort. It became clear that she was driven by an overwhelming need to control every aspect of her job and her life. As we dug deeper, I began to notice a pattern in her stories, a recurring theme of frustration, isolation, envy, jealousy. So I asked her a critical question if she noticed that in every job she had had, that the same issues kept coming up. Teams that started out enthusiastic but ended up distant and disengaged. You see, at first she brushed it off and saying the people just didn't understand her standards. I asked if this pattern of perceived jealousy was something she experienced in other areas of her life, and she admitted it was. So I pressed further, asking if this pattern keeps repeating itself, this pattern of jealousy, of isolation, of frustration, if it keeps repeating in your personal life and in your career life, that what did she think the common denominator might be? This question made her pause. Edith began to reflect on the many times she had faced similar challenges despite changing jobs and teams. She had always felt that others just didn't appreciate her vision, whether at work or in her personal life. I then asked her to consider whether she might be misinterpreting these responses that she gets from people that result in isolation, that result in this frustration, that result in this disengagement, if she's misrepresenting them as jealousy. Because if perceived jealousy is a constant in both her work and personal life despite changing jobs multiple times, perhaps the common thread is her own actions and mindset. As we explore this pattern, I asked her to think back to her childhood, to the moment that might have shaped her need to be in control. Edith hesitated, then recalled how as a child she grew up in a large family. She struggled to get attention she craved. She was the youngest in a large family and often felt overshadowed by her older siblings. Her ideas and opinions were frequently dismissed or ignored. This repeated invalidation led to a profound sense of frustration, and she learned early on that to stand out, she had to take charge and assert herself to prove her worth. And over time, this deep-seated belief that she had to aggressively assert her ideas to be acknowledged and respected shaped her approach to life. She realized that this drive to be noticed and valued had carried over into her adult life, manifesting as a need to control every detail and be at the center of every project. This background helped us to understand why Edith felt the need to dominate and control her environment. To bring Edith to a deeper awareness, I asked her a question that changed everything. What if the reaction you are getting isn't about jealousy, but about how you are treating others? Edith was taken aback. It was the first time she considered that her actions might be the cause of the problem she was facing. I then introduced her to the concept of main character syndrome and explained how it can manifest as a need to dominate every situation, leading to the exclusion of others' ideas and contributions. I asked her if she had ever considered that her drive to perfect everything might be more about her need to feel indispensable and to prove a point that she is better than others than about the quality of the work itself. This was a turning point for Edith. She realized that her relentless pursuit of control and perfection wasn't just about high standards, that it was also about a deep-seated need to be the hero in every scenario and to display her superiority. She began to see how a behavior driven by main character syndrome was not only harming her relationships but also hindering her ability to achieve her long-term goals, like becoming a senior executive. Edith began to see that to move forward, she needed to shift her perspective from seeing herself as the main character to viewing herself as a leader who empowers others to succeed and an individual who doesn't allow a need for superiority to hinder our relationships. If you want to overcome your main character issues, the first step is recognizing that you are not always the center of attention. And next is you need to learn to actively listen to others. Genuinely pay attention without planning your next response. The third is to practice empathy by putting yourself in someone else's shoes. How would they feel if they were always overshadowed? You need to ask that question. How will they feel if they are always overshadowed? Step 4 is to collaborate instead of compete. In life and work, the best ideas and the best work come from teamwork, not from a one-man show. Number 5 is to challenge your need for control. Always challenge your need for control. Learn to trust others, delegate, and accept your way isn't always the only way. Then you want to always reflect on your actions. If you notice patterns of people pulling away or feeling alienated, it might be the time to adjust your approach and recalibrate. Finally, stay humble. Real growth comes from when you realize that you are part of something bigger than just yourself. If you know anyone who probably has an issue like this and you would like to help them, send them this video and let them listen and let them make necessary adjustment in their life and in their career. Thank you and see you in the next one.